Hey guys, it's Fandoms X Listener here, back again with another Fandoms X Listener video, and today I bring you Atreus X Listener Part 5, The Runaway. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I have my coffee here with me. Take a sip of this coffee. Music in the background will be Silhouette by Pastel Ghost, and I hope you guys enjoy. Sorry if I stutter a little bit. And heads up, my cat is here with me, so you might hear purring in the background or a few ruffling or rustling around because she likes to play on my bed or she just likes to move around. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Okay, so we are starting with a rewind. From what I can recall from my last video is that Atreus found you at the lake. And he told you what was happening, and you agreed on running away with him. So as you guys were running away, you stopped at a tree. He leaned against the tree. He was breathless since you guys had been running for a couple miles now. Excuse my breathless voice. It might not sound as good. So take a sip of this coffee and I'll see how I sound later. I'm sorry for making you run so far, listener, but look, I just really need to get away from my father right now. You looked at him, breathless as well, and you nodded your head before you said, It's okay. I understand what you're going through right now, but do you have any idea where we're going? Atreus looked at you and said, well, if you excuse me for a second. He leaned against the tree some more and took a couple deep breaths. Okay, pardon me for that. I have a cabin of my own. Me and my father built it a couple years back, and he said to use it in emergency usages. I think we could go there. I think I still remember the way. I don't think he'll notice for a couple days, since he doesn't really like me anyways, he said, kicking the snow a little bit. He sighed softly and said, I doubt that, but lead the way, he said with a soft smile. He gently grabbed your hand and led the way. You guys soon stumbled upon a wooden cabin where nothing was lit. It looked pretty old, some vines across it. Atreus grabbed one of his arrows, and with the blade, he cut off some of the vines covering the door. He soon opened the door, and it was pretty dusty inside, so he waved off some of the dust and coughed a little bit because we all know we're kind of allergic to dust. Goodness. My apologies, this place hasn't been open in quite a couple years, but I hope it's cozy enough for us to stay in here. You laughed softly and said, It's fine, actually. I like it in here. Atreus had a light shade of blush run across his face, and as he spoke, well, I'm glad. Me and my father put a lot of work into this cabin, so I'm really grateful that I actually get to use this cabin after years of wondering when I could use it. So he started cleaning up and shifting some things around. And then once everything was in place, you laid down on the bed, and soon enough you drifted off to sleep. and Atreus was just sitting at the quote-unquote dining table, and he was sharpening one of his knives before he heard shifting snow outside. He blew out all the candles and stayed silent. Take a sip of this coffee. Looks like my cat wants some too. Once he blew out all the candles, he listened closely. He soon heard Mimir and Tyr. Mimir says, and I quote, "I don't know where this boy could be. I'm sure he could be here somewhere, but I don't think he went too far. Do you think he went too far, Cut that. And I quote, I don't think our Atreus could have gone that far. Do you think, Tyr? I don't think he would go that far. I think he'd be turning back by now, don't you think?" Tyrson responded, I don't think so, Mimir. I don't mean to get your hopes down, but from what I've heard, Atreus was really, really stressed out and frustrated with his father. Sometimes I really think Kratos is hard on him. Mimir cuts him off and says, "Well, of course he's hard on him for a reason. He wants him to grow up and be a strong man like him. Well, not just a man, but a strong god. And he doesn't want to raise a weakling god." Tyr cuts him off. "Hey, don't talk about him like that. I know both of you love him very much, but remember, he's kind of still just a kid, and raising him up in a tough way and in a strict way with no affection or no love is tough. And I've experienced it. I know how he feels. I can't change Kratos' mind, but maybe we should give him some time." "Some time?" says Mimir. "I don't think we should give him time at all. All he needed to do was sit down and talk with his father, or even talk to me. I mean, I get it. I'm some sort of geek that knows every little thing on earth, but he could have at least sat down and listened to my advice." Tyr listened to Mimir go off and off about Atreus, how he could have listened to his advice, etc. Then Tyr finally spoke. Look, Mimir, sometimes people don't need advice. What they need is someone that they can rely and listen to. Well, not listen, but cut that. Mimir, sometimes people don't need someone to give them advice. What they need is someone to listen to them. And yes, he needs someone to rely on, feel comforted. I get it. His father never grew up with that. And not to bring this very, very deep topic up, he lost his wife and kids to his own hands. That is why he is so cold and so stern. But what Kratos needs to understand is that Atreus will never be like him. Atreus is his own person. And if Atreus wants to show love and affection and a soft side like his father says, then he will and he shall. He can't just grow up and be cold and heartless like his father. But I know a side of his father that nobody has ever seen. And I know you do too, Mimir. Before he slayed his own wife and kids in that village and had their ashes poured on his own skin as a punishment, he used to be loving and caring. And I don't think Atreus knows about that. Mimir sighed. Atreus let out a soft gasp, never knowing that he had, quote-unquote, another mother or a sister or a brother. He just sat there and listened. Mimir said, Right, I know. We know that side of Kratos, but we know it's never coming back. Kratos has grown up, matured, is a father, and we can't bring it back. I wish I could sit down and listen to Atreus go on and on about his problems and how much he probably hates his father and how much he hates the discipline he takes just because he wants to be his own person. But poor Atreus. Maybe he does need a break. You see what I'm saying? Says Tyr. Maybe give him a day, or a day and a half, maybe a day or two. Maybe he'll cool off and come back, and I know Kratos is going to be like, boy, you should have been back sooner, and blah blah. Tyr mocks Kratos a little bit, and Mimir chuckles. Yeah, we know that part. But let's head back. It's getting really late, and I just hope Atreus is okay. Soon, Mimir and Tyr headed back. Atreus was in shock, but the rage within him didn't go away at all. He didn't care if his father had a soft side for his other children. How come his father could have had a soft side for his other children but not him? What was so different about him that he didn't like? Why couldn't he be loving and express how much of a true person he is? And his father could be so loving and affectionate towards other people. For example, Freya. Atreus just sat there for a minute before storming out the cabin and kicking something. And we all know the transformation he takes. He probably turned into a bear again and was raging at other animals, or scratching trees and biting things because he wanted to let all that rage out. Once he was done, he was breathless once again, and he laid in the snow. Once he was done, he laid in the snow, breathless once again. I don't know what to do anymore. If I can't express myself and show my father how much of a good person I can actually be, then I'll just run away like I am. I didn't want to get listener involved into this, but I know what they're going through too. I need to start controlling this stupid transformations of mine. I gotta head back before they notice I'm gone. Soon, he got up, and he ended up actually killing 2 deers. So he took advantage of that and took them back to the cabin, skinning them, etc., and later on cooking them. A few hours later, he soon woke up. He yawned softly. Atreus? You said in a sleepy voice. Yes, listener, Atreus replied. What are you doing up so late? I heard Mimir and Tyr talking outside. I blew out all the candles and listened, and I got a fistful of rage and went outside and ended up kind of killing 2 deer, so I took them back to the cabin, and now I guess we have cooked deer, so you might as well eat. You haven't eaten anything since we got here. So, here." He held a small piece of meat up to your mouth and you ate it. You blushed lightly as he fed you. He was so kind and caring, it was almost like a fairy tale. You expected to meet a boy that was probably stern and maybe a little cold, but he was the complete opposite. Sometimes he had his moments where he couldn't control his frustration or rage, and sometimes, yes, he could be a little cold, but his true person was nothing compared to that. He was nothing compared to his father. He was as brave and had maybe, cut that. He was brave and strong and all of that like his father, but his personality and all, nothing like that. I had to stop my cat for something, so take a sip of this coffee. Kind of chased her around. Back on track. You blushed lightly as he fed you. After you were finished chewing and eating, you asked, "What were Tyr and Mimir talking about?" Atreus rolled his eyes, not at you, but he was frustrated, so he rolled his eyes and said, "We're talking about my father and how he had this wife that I had no idea about and a daughter. He had a daughter and never told me about it. He told me I was his only son, but that doesn't seem to be true anyways. So why would I care?" he said, raising his voice slightly. You reached out and gently caressed his cheek before you spoke. "Atreus, calm down. I'm right here. I'm here to listen. Go ahead." Atreus soon took a deep breath, leaning into your touch. "I'm sorry, sometimes I can't contain myself. I'm learning. I don't want to let that rage out on you. But father never told me that he had a wife and a kid or a daughter beforehand, and I've always wondered why he was so pale, if that's even an offensive question, but deep down I feel so much regret and pain for him. I feel what he feels. It must be so hard to... Oh my God. I feel what he feels. It must be so painful to lose a wife and a daughter in your own hands without knowing. He did once tell me that he had a daughter, but I knew nothing about her. I just knew that she was his world and he cared for her deeply. And I understand that. But he shouldn't let his past problems affect him now. The past is the past, and it's haunting him, and it's painful to see him this way. And I don't want that to happen to him again. I don't want him to lose me or lose somebody else that's precious to him, and see him maybe lose his insanity. He's probably losing his insanity now, looking for me, or maybe not even looking for me, because all I do is mess everything up, he said, soon pulling away from your hand and placing it down on the table. Without hesitation, you put your hand back on his cheek before speaking. You don't do anything wrong, and you don't mess anything up. Failing makes you better. Maybe your father told you different. Failing makes you better at things. I can say the same for myself. I was never good at being a lady, gentleman, / they, them, or whatever gender you are. My parents always told me to do this or that, or maybe this will make me better. And it never did. Not saying that my problems are bigger than yours, but maybe try not to think about it. Put yourself first instead of your father. I get it. He's the world to you and he's like number one. But that's affecting you. Your personal life, your mental health. It's affecting you a lot, and I can see that. Maybe think about yourself a little more. It's not selfish. It's taking care of your own being. Atreus leaned into your touch. He seemed like he was enjoying it very much because he didn't get physical contact as much. Besides Freya maybe ruffling his hair or helping him with his wounds. But this sort of affection and physical touch was something new to him. So soon, he leaned in and gave him a hug. A hug that lasted for maybe a couple minutes. He didn't really know what to do at first, before slowly wrapping his arms around you and pulling you closer. He took a deep breath and said, "Thank you, listener. You don't know how much you and this means to me. It means the world, or even more than existence. I really don't know what I would do without you, without anything." I probably sound so stupid right now, he said as he buried his face into your shoulder. He chuckled softly, gently caressing his hair. You don't. You're just saying things that you want to say. You're not just saying things off the top of your head. You're saying meaningful things. And saying that I mean a lot to you means a lot to me. We probably barely know each other and stuff like that, but ever since we saw each other at the lake and met each other for the first time, I felt a little connection between us. Atreus blushed because where he's from, or where he grew up with his father, having a, quote, connection means, being connected with someone romantically. He stayed silent for a couple minutes before speaking. Yeah, I felt the same way. Little did he know, he confessed his feelings. Ooh, we got some romance coming up. Okay, I'll stop. Take a sip of this coffee. Later on, around maybe 2-3 o'clock in the morning, there was a loud, not bang, but more like loud, really loud knock at the door, like boom, 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 like that. I can't recreate that. I have no books near me at the moment, but there was a really loud knock at the door. Atreus swung up from his sleep, immediately grabbing his bow. He's ready to strike before slowly opening the door. It was Mimir and it was Mimir and Tyr. Mimir was the first one to speak, of course. "Oh, thank goodness you're okay. Atreus, come here, you little," he said, grabbing Atreus and giving him a big hug. Said Atreus, muffling because he couldn't say a word. "Oh, my apologies. We were so worried about you. Why didn't you ever tell us that you had a cabin of your own?" Tyr spoke up and said, "Mimir, let's not ask questions right now. Are you okay, Atreus? Have you been eating? Are you with anyone?" Said Tyr. "Oh," says the one that doesn't want me to ask questions. "I'm asking the important questions here." Atreus sighed and rolled his eyes before saying, Yes, I'm fine." "No, I'm not with anyone," he said, rubbing the back of his head slightly. Mimir and Tyr gave each other like that brotherly look before looking back at Atreus. They both said, "Tell the truth." Atreus looked down at the ground before saying, Okay, I have someone with me." Mimir was the first one to speak up. "Ooh, is it a girl? Is it a boy? Is it a person?" Atreus chuckled softly and said, Yes, it's a person. And they're asleep right now, so be quiet." "Oh, my apologies, Atreus. But come home, please. We're worried about you, and your father is losing his insanity." Atreus face palmed and said, "I figured." Tyr spoke up and said, "Look, you don't have to come home if you don't want to. If you want to experience adulthood and how it is to hunt on your own and seek on your own and battle on your own, as long as you're not causing any chaos and controlling your inner rage, that'll be just fine." Mimir gave Tyr a look. "Are you going mad? Have you become a madman like you used to be?" "We don't speak of those ages, Mimir," said Tyr, almost raising his voice. "Look here, he needs to come home." "No, he does not," said Tyr. "We spoke about this yesterday, Mimir. Atreus is his own person. He makes his own decisions. He is around, 18 by now? He needs to experience adulthood on his own. Not always is he going to need his father or his father's permission, unless it is for marriage." Atreus spoke up and said, "Since when was marriage the topic?" They both rolled his eyes and said, Nothing. Mimir finally spoke up and said, "Fine. Let him experience adulthood. Then he'll come crawling back like..." "Fine. Let him experience adulthood. But soon he'll come back apologizing to all of us, saying that it's terrible." Then Tyr spoke up and said, "Mimir, we all know his father isn't going to be around forever. No one is going to be around forever unless you are a god. And, Atreus, forgive me for bringing up this topic. This topic frustrates you, so I would recommend you covering your ears." Atreus didn't cover his ears. He still listened. Atreus is a god. And he might stick around forever if he decides to be immortal and not be immortal. Then he will get to experience godhood and immortalhood at the same time. He might be a 50-50. Just let him be, Mimir. Let's head back, brother. Indeed, you're not wrong, said Mimir. Let's just go back. Look, Atreus, I just want to tell you, please be careful. Please. And if you ever need spare arrows, you know who to call, said Mimir before walking away with Tyr. Atreus went back inside. He made sure he had enough arrows, his spear, etc. He were asleep like an angel, in his eyes romanced. Soon, Atreus gently reached out and caressed your cheek while you were asleep. You kind of steered around in your sleep. He got a little jumpy, so he pulled back. But seeing you lean into his touch made his hopes go up. Maybe you two did have a connection. So he leaned in and gave you a soft kiss on your forehead. Sweet dreams. If you can hear me, probably not. That was a stupid question. But if you can, I'm going out for a little bit. Don't be surprised if I'm not here for a couple hours. He muttered it, but he still said it. I love you. Okay. Please, take care of yourself, he said before going back into the woods and doing whatever he had to do. Maybe practice his shooting, his aiming. Maybe he's going hunting. You did indeed hear him. You smiled in your sleep and continued off into dreamland. And that's all for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are on the road to 10K subscribers. And thank you very much for all your love and support. This actually did take me a little while to record because my cat was doing whatever she wanted, apparently. It's only when I'm trying to do something important she acts reckless. Excuse me. I gave her a little treat and she stopped. I actually had to move some of my things up to my bed because she kept playing around with it and it made a lot of noise. So this video will have a lot of cuts. Maybe cuts that don't fit the lines, or maybe different tones because I had to repeat things or refilm them. Like you just heard, she's fiddling around with a can of Monster. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for all your love and support. Take one last sip of this coffee. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!